I decided to set up a Pandapter for my Icom IC746 using SDRUno and a RTL SDR dongles and my rig control software DXCommander, since the 746 doesn't have any type of waterfall. First thing I have is SDR transmit receive antenna switch. MFJ makes one of these, but I found this one and Banggood for about half the price, and from the reviews it's highly recommended over the MFJ unit. On the back there are two SO239 connectors. One is for the antenna and the other one's for the transceiver. Then there's a SMA connector which you connect to SDR. It can be set up to trigger a relay either by using RF sense of a signal, or there's a connector for push to talk, which I connected to the relay connector on the 746. It's also a jack for a 12-volt power supply. Internally, there's a jumper for having transceiver receive at the same time as the SDR. I guess if it's not set, the transceiver isn't connected to the antenna, it's just the SDR. And if it's jump, it still is connected to the antenna at the same time the SDR is connected during receive. I have it jumped. In the bottom, I'll include a link to the switch. On the front of the unit, there's connectors for sound input and output. I also connected a USB sound dongle onto my computer USB port, and I have the output of the SDRUno connected to the output to use the output of the USB dongle, this one up here. The output of the USB dongle then goes out, well actually, yeah, it goes out into the SDR receive audio input. Then the audio output from the switch goes back into the USB dongle using the microphone input on it. And for this, then I have this connected internally to the computer to listen to this device on the default playback device. This cuts out the receive of the SDRUno when you're transmitting on the transceiver. This is my SDR setup. And to the left there, standing up, is the SDR-RTL dongle. It's plugged into a USB hub, and from there on the right there is, you can see, is the hammered up Nano there, and then at the bottom right there is the that's the USB sound dongle that I have. On the computer, you're going to need a software called Virtual Serial Cable app. I use COM0 for it, and in here what you do, you set up a virtual cable in here, and it comes up as two COM ports, and these are connected together just like a regular serial cable. So you set that up, COM10 and COM11. Then what we do is we go into DXCommander. This is DXCommander. It's part of the DXLabs software suite. You go into config, and in the config, under ports, you set up a secondary CAT serial port. You use the port number, one of those ports that you just set up a COM0 in here. Set the bulb to 19.2. You set this up as a CADwood, because that's what SDRUno would be looking like to DXCommander. You put down follow and lead primary. So you set that up in here first. Now, in SDRUno, you go into settings, Go into CAT. Use the other port that you set up in COM0, COM in here. You set baud to the same baud rate, enable connect. So you hit enable and connect. It will automatically connect to DX Commander in the DXLabs suite. So now they're both synced together. So now you see the waterfall here up on SDRUno. It's nighttime, so there's not too many signals out there. Apologize for that. And you could change the frequency, either 746. If I go to the 746, or maybe I should show you how I got the SDR set up on here. Well, that's the easy way. You just set up the go under options, go under select input, external RTL SDR. Now this is a different type of SDRUno. It's not like the ones that are out for SDPlay. This is a version called SDRUno_EXTIO. So it's a different software. And you set that up in here, and you set your offset for the hammered up Nano. You set the offset to -125 megahertz, and that will swap the signal coming in, the HF signal, and boost it up to the VHF portion, which the dongle reads, because the dongle can't go down to the HF level, only could go up to the VHF at higher levels. So the hammered up Nano takes the HF and pops it up into the VHF region. So now, if I go to my 746, and if I change the frequency, you can see it changes on SDRUno. I could also go to SDRUno and change the frequency here if I want to go to some place that has a signal, and use the mouse to go and fine tune it. We'll also change the frequency on the 746. Also, now when you transmit, of course, the TRX switch will now short the antenna out to the SDR so you don't blow the front end out of the SDR, and switch it to the transceiver. Or in this case, it doesn't switch it because I have that jumper in there, so it stays on there. So the transmitter is out over the output to the antenna, and then when you go back to receive, it connects it back over to SDRUno and the 746. Now, there's a safety circuit that if the power isn't connected to the switch, it will always be connected to the transceiver, and it shorts out the SDR, and it will not do anything for the SDR without any signal to it. So that's a safety feature if you don't have power on it. So you could just want to use your radio. You could just unplug the power from the SDR-TXRX switch and use it that way. But plug it in there, that's when it does the transfer of power over and for the receiver to work. So that's my basic setup. So now I have a Pandapter, and actually this SDRUno with the SDR dongle and the hammered up Nano is probably a little more sensitive than the 746 is. I get better signals off of that. And there's back to my DXLabs, which is a nice program suite in here because we have the logbook is on the left. Upper right is the DX Commander, has a band spread here, which you could change the frequency here too, which of course will also change it at SDRUno and change it on the 746. Here is a capture window for the DX Keeper, which is a login program. Also with this DXLabs suite, you also have this is called Spot Collector, which is a DX cluster. So you have a DX cluster, and this here is a DX view. So it shows you when you put something in the DX Keeper and look up, You could use the Dix keeper to put it in there in the capture window, and if you hit return, it automatically looks it up in the Pathfinder and gives you a map of where he is. If you have a rotor, it also can automatically change your rotor to that heading. And this is back to the screen that I have Pathfinder on. So this is Pathfinder, which is basically just a lookup for QRZ or a couple other buck. If you have buck call book on here, you could do it that way, and that sends it over to DX Keepers, so it automatically fills in his address and stuff like that. So this is my poor person, I guess, Pandapter setup for my Icom 746. Thank you. This is Ronald and Ski saying 73s.